You're listening to How to 20-something, the best podcast that helps both men and women navigate their 20s and learn how to adult across all aspects of their lives. We're going to focus on career, relationships, finances, fitness, nutrition, and all of the common challenges and obstacles a typical 20-something will face in this post-college life. I'm your host, Jess Diamond, and I am the CEO and founder of Jess Diamond Coaching, where I help young professionals get their shit together, gain their confidence, and own their life. No one prepares you for this adulting world, so allow me to help you feel like you are no longer a chicken running around with its head cut off, and that you actually know what the hell is going on and what your next step to take is. Welcome to How to 20-something. Welcome back to another episode of How to 20-something, where today is an interesting topic and was inspired by conversations that I've had with people in my life recently, as well as when I hosted my first workshop for the parents of 20-somethings at the end of May. I'm recording this the week before the workshop goes live, but I do plan on this being the start of many parent-related workshops because we all know they need help when it comes to helping us. This is obviously going to be case by case because relationships vary based on upbringing, life events, and even birth order. So this episode is designed to help you develop a clear understanding as to how you want to relate to your parents as you get older, and if you even want to have a relationship with them at all. It's an interesting subject to say the least, because it's not like we're all walking around having conversations about our relationships to our parents with everyone we know, and everyone has different family dynamics. Even within your family unit, the way you relate to your mom and the way your siblings relate to your mom are going to be different. So allow me to start this episode with telling you that you are allowed to question the kind of relationship you want to have with your parents, even if it's seemingly unconventional or harsh. Just know that your definition of family changes as you grow older and change as well. And it can change from family by blood, the people who raised you and who you grew up with, to none of that, and having your definition of family be your friends or your partner. It's a weird shift in dynamics and identity that occurs, and a lot of times parents aren't prepared for this change because you're not a kid anymore, yet you still feel like you're 16 with a curfew whenever you're around them. Then there's this pull of being legally an adult, feeling like you should have full autonomy over your life and decisions, but then seeking approval or fearing judgment from your parents, or feeling like you owe it to your parents to be in contact with them because they devoted 2 decades of their life to helping you build yours. Again, this is not the case for everyone, as I know people who have grown up and their mom is now their best friend, someone they confide in for everything, where they are viewed as more of an equal than as a parent-child relationship. But that is the exception and not the rule, and I can say that because I am constantly in conversations with 20-somethings, and parental relationships come up in my coaching practice and amongst friends and even within my own life. And sure, cultural factors, life experiences, and the way you're raised all come into play with how your parents are going to treat you, view you, and interact with you, and vice versa. But if you've been listening for long enough, then you would know we're not going to focus on your parents' actions, thoughts, and beliefs, but rather how you respond to them, boundaries you want to begin setting and enforcing, and what you want your side of the relationship to be with them. Which gets tricky because there is some form of respect and people-pleasing that comes up when it's time to set some much-needed boundaries. It's going to be uncomfortable at first, but if you are someone who is listening and wants to save your relationship with your parents or even keep your own peace, then this is going to be the healthiest thing you can do. If you're someone who does not care to repair or save your relationship with your parents, then I'd still recommend you keep listening because how you do one thing is how you do everything. So if it's not in relation to your parents, maybe it's to your boss or your friends or you as a future parent, if that's a goal of yours. But your relationship with your parents and where you hold the control lies with your boundaries. Boundaries are an act of self-respect. It doesn't make you a bad daughter or son. It makes you an honest one. And when communicated properly, which I'll get into in a moment, will make your relationship stronger. Although it probably won't feel that way at first. And know that setting boundaries is tender territory because for the first time, you're stepping up and not necessarily fighting back, but taking a stand for your life and finding your voice. So I'll give some examples. If you have the kind of parents who want to call you or visit you more than you would like, saying something along the lines of, "While I love talking to you, I can't do daily check-ins anymore. Can we make a plan to talk every Sunday so I can give you my full attention?" This will reassure your mom that it's not her, she didn't do anything wrong, and that you enjoy speaking with her while also asserting your bandwidth. Because I know you definitely want to avoid the extremist side of where the conversation could, and probably has, turned to where your mom responds with, "I guess I'm just a terrible mother and I'll never call you again." To which I will remind you, if you communicate to the best of your abilities, you are doing what's within your control, and we cannot control how your mom is going to receive it as long as you are clear on your intentions and tone. Which also brings up a very important part of setting boundaries, and that is don't do it via text. Either phone call, FaceTime, or in person is the best way to go, so at least your tone of voice is coming through, limiting any message from being misconstrued. But when it comes to your end of communicating, you do need to state what you don't like and then propose a solution. I had a session with a client the other week, and he just graduated college, so we've been working on his career path. He mentioned one of the jobs he applied to is nothing even close to what we've been discussing, nor is it something he would even remotely enjoy. So I asked him if his parents are asking him for job updates and just want him to have a job just to have a job. To which he said yes, and then we spent a majority of our session talking about how he can approach his parents so they get off his back, while also expressing his appreciation and gratitude for their concern. And it basically came down to him identifying his non-negotiables for what he's looking for in his first full-time job, why he doesn't want a job just to have a job, and a timeline as to when he'd like to be employed by, as well as a solution in case that timeline doesn't pan out. It's knowing that your parents care, but communicating what's going on for you, and more importantly, that you've thought this all through and have a plan for yourself to succeed. Because that's really where all of the headaches your parents cause come from. It's from them wanting you to thrive and do well in life, while also wanting to be involved and included in your life. So I'll give another example for when your parent is prying into your life and giving some unsolicited advice, either around your career, your dating life, your finances, your body, whatever it is they feel the need to comment on and give their 2 cents about. You could say, "I know you're trying to help, but when I get advice I didn't ask for, it makes me feel less confident in my choices. I will be much more receptive to your advice when I ask for it, and I think it would improve our relationship." So instead of telling them, "You always tell me what to do and I don't like that," and then both of you leaving the conversation feeling flustered and annoyed at one another, you're letting them know that you do like their advice, but when it's warranted. Side note, I'm watching Gilmore Girls for the first time right now. I know I'm late to the game, but Lorelai and her mother both really needed this episode because their mother-daughter relationship is beyond rough, and they both need some serious help with their communication tactics. Okay, that note aside, another example I'm going to give you is for when the relationship with your parent feels toxic or unsafe, and basically you need space. I had a client recently who was going through a rough relationship with her dad where she was getting really, really upset with him and ready to cut him off completely. But also knew she was going to see him for her brother's graduation in a few weeks. So I helped her resist that urge to block him or ignore his texts and communicate that she needs space right now and that she'll see him at her brother's graduation. If you don't have a clear timeline as to when you'll see your parents next and want to remove or indefinitely pause contact with them, you can say something like, "I need to take a break from communication for now. It's not easy, but I need this pause to protect my well-being, and I will reach out when I'm ready to connect." Notice how all of these examples I'm giving you are about you and not about what your parent is or isn't doing, because that's the biggest part of setting boundaries and communicating. It's keep your focus on your needs and wants. You are not responsible for managing your parents' feelings, but you are responsible for communicating your needs clearly, kindly, and with respect. Having relationships with your parents as you grow and mature and step into your own identity and find your voice is difficult. But you need to know whether you want to pursue a new kind of relationship with them and try your best to communicate and rewrite the parent-child script, or if it's time to go your separate ways. Then it's also asking yourself, do you want this relationship or do you feel obligated to keep it? Because here's what I want to tell you. You get to decide what is best for you. Sure, it's not what society says. It's not how you were raised. It's not how your parents were raised. But that doesn't mean you can't change things up. It's a war that goes on for both of you, where your parents grew up with the mentality of respect your elders. And now we're the generation that's fighting back and demanding respect in return. It's new for all parties involved. But if removing your parents from your life is what is going to protect your peace, then that is what you get to decide for yourself. However, if you're going to feel guilty, then I'm going to suggest to you to set boundaries first and just give it a try. And part of that setting boundaries is communicating where you're at right now, that you don't want to lose them. But if they can't respect your boundaries, then that is where this relationship is leaning towards. Not as a threat, but as a way to say you're not happy, and you guys both get to find what will work, while also knowing that it's going to take some time to adjust to this new type of relationship. It's really tricky to navigate from both the parent side and from the kid's side. Your parents invested a lot of time, energy, and money into you, and I say that to not increase any guilt from your people-pleasing tendencies, but to give you some insight into what's coming up for them and why they're going to feel hurt or betrayed. Again, knowing that you're not responsible for managing their emotions. You get to ask yourself what it is that you want from your relationship with your parents during this phase of your life. Is it support, distance, friendship, nothing? And it's okay for your answer to be that you're not ready for a relationship with them at all. It's okay if your relationship isn't what you wish it was. It's disappointing. And it does come with this sense of grief of what will never be. But that's also not to say that people can't change. While also knowing not to hold your breath in the hopes that they do. Because while you can't change someone else and what they're doing or not doing, you can change your expectations of them. I'll tell you right now that my relationship with my mom in my early 20s was almost obsolete. My relationship with my dad was when I was young, as he passed when I was 13. But I remember a majority of it would be me constantly hoping he would change, that he would be a better dad like what I saw my friends all had, someone who is responsible, mature, an adult. And I was constantly let down by the expectations I would set for him. The result? We never had a close relationship. I was always let down by a version of him that was never going to exist. I know I was literally a kid, but I see a lot of those same patterns exist for my 20-somethings, and it's a hard realization to come to terms with. Many of us carry a vision of the parent we wish we had, that idealized version we saw on TV, in our friends' homes, or just in our heads, and grieving that fantasy can be incredibly painful, but it's also freeing. We are constantly being fed how a parent should be or what we wanted them to be instead of facing the fact of who your parents really are. And that can lead to a lot of disappointment and coming to terms with your ideal parent fantasy as what it is, a fantasy. Your parents want a relationship with you. They do love you, but that doesn't mean you have to open your door for them anymore. As you grow up, you're going to develop a better understanding as to what is working for you and what's not. But it's on you to communicate your needs and wants without playing the blame game. And while you've probably formed expectations of how you want your parents to exist in your life and who they are, it's also fair to say that your parents have done the same with you. Your parents have probably painted a picture in their mind of what they want their relationship to be with you, or what they believe your potential is, or what it's supposed to look like altogether. And there's a good chance you're not living up to their idea in the same way they aren't living up to yours. which again invites the opportunity for a conversation of what you both need from one another. For example, when my sister and I went off to college, my mom made it a rule that we had to call her at least once a week. That rule became a habit and is something that we both still do every single week. I enjoy putting in my headphones and going for a walk and giving my mom all the updates of my life from the previous 7 days. One of my good friends, on the other hand, went off to college and her mom called her every day and tracked her location at all times to the point of whenever we went out, she would set her location to her iPad so her mom didn't question where she was on a Wednesday night. My mom thought that was excessive, that she didn't need to call us every day or know where we were at all times, but we knew we could call her as often as we wanted to, which most of the time came to once a week, unless I was really going through something. Like my freshman year, I was dealing with some nasty roommates, and I was in tears talking to my mom almost every day. Then when things leveled out, the calls went back to once a week. But what I'm getting at is don't compare your family to someone else's, because what works for them might not work for you. How you relate to your parents and how you want to relate to your parents going forward is going to be up to you, where you seriously need to take some time and ask yourself, what do you want your relationship with your parents to be? What feels heavy when you think about your relationship with your parents? And by that, I mean, do you feel like the emotional caretaker, where you've turned into your parents' confidant, peacekeeper, therapist, with this constant pressure to fix things in the family or not rock the boat? Do you feel like you have to walk on eggshells because you don't want to say the wrong thing and have things get blown way out of proportion? Is there a pressure on you to succeed, get married, start a family where you can't relax until you achieve the milestones your parents outlined for you and you have the constant feeling of falling short? Do your parents treat you like their kid and not the person you've grown into? Do they bring up past habits you exhibited from childhood and hold it over your head? I know these are some heavy examples, and this is definitely something I would recommend talking with a therapist about, and then eventually family counseling might be beneficial. It's a complicated topic for sure, but know that cutting off your parents is an option if that's the direction you want to go, to which I'll remind you, this is your life. You're in charge of your peace and who you welcome into it. Your parents love you unconditionally, but might not express it in the best way. Your parents love you unconditionally, but that doesn't mean you owe them anything. Your relationship to your parents isn't a one and done situation either. You might set one boundary today and need to revisit it next year or even next month. As you get older, it's important to remember that your parents are getting older too. Both parties need to learn how your relationship is evolving and be honest with one another with what's working and what's not working. Some relationships get strong with boundaries, some get quieter, and some end altogether. It's up to you to decide what's worth fighting for and what's worth letting go of. But relationships are complicated, and that includes parental relationships. Remember, it's their first time being a parent too, and it's their first time living this life. So cut them some slack, communicate your needs like an adult, and set and enforce boundaries in a mature and responsible way. Be the adult you want to be treated as. And on that note, that is exactly how I'm going to wrap up this episode of How to 20-something. So, if you liked what you heard, if you felt seen or heard, if you're going to test out any of these communication styles with your parents, please let me know. Sometimes I feel like I'm speaking into a void, so I'd love to know that you're out there listening and that this resonates. And share this episode, give me a 5-star rating, help me expand my outreach so that I continue to make episodes, because they are a lot of work, and I want to know you guys are out there and that you're appreciating it. And as always, I can't wait to be in your headphones again next week with another brand new episode.